Back. Uh, the crew of Mission 41C, Mission Commander Bob Crippen, Pilot Dick Scobie, Mission Specialist Terry Hart, Jim Van Hoften, and George Nelson.
We're going to share with you a little bit of what the mission was like from our standpoint, and the way we normally do that is with the post-flight film that we'd like to run through for you. If we could go ahead and show the movie, please.
This is the ascent portion of our mission. The countdown at the Cape just went flawlessly. We were really pleased with the way things went on down there. The engine's starting. You can see the shock waves come out of the throats of the nozzles. The nozzles vibrate. The engines get up and stable in about 6 seconds. Solid rocket motors fire, and we're off. And for a new guy doing this the first time, it's really a thrill. And that thing feels like being on a rough train while the solid rocket motors are firing. If y'all have been on a rough railroad track, that's about what it feels like. And it's a very interesting ride. You can function normally. And right before we lifted off, Crip said, "Get ready for the ride of your lives," and he was right. It's the ride of your life.
It's still really a big thrill on your third time, too.
One of the neat things about this mission was we're going to do direct insertion into orbit, so we didn't do an orbital maneuvering system one burn right after the main engine's cut off, so we're going right into orbit off the pad, and we're going up 250 miles, so the trajectory and everything was a little bit different, and it made a real interesting ride out of it. The solid rocket motors, the engines and everything just are magnificent. We didn't have a glitch the whole ascent, which is really nice. You don't want any glitches when this kind of stuff's going on outside your window.
We all kept on watching Crip, make sure this is the way it's really supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay, solid rocket motors separated. You saw the plumes from the separation motors. Those fog up our windows pretty good up in front. They put a haze on the forward windows when they go off, and you get a nice flash in the windows, but it's a nice smooth separation. This is our external tank coming in by Hawaii. One of our test objectives was to put that tank in so they could take pictures of it. This is the tank breaking up just south of Hawaii. And it's low-light TV, so you get some blooming in it, but you can also see the rather large pieces of the tank and how much it's broken up. And they were trying to measure the footprint of those pieces as they came into the ocean to see how big the dispersion was on them. So that's all bits and pieces of the big tank we carry.
Looked like it lit up the area pretty good over there.
Yeah. And this next picture is the orbiter coming right along behind. And if it hadn't been for the Ohms burn, we'd been right behind the tank, which we didn't want to do. So.
This next series just goes through each of the guys to make sure you prove that we're on board, which we were. Some of our going through our little activities and getting squared away. That shot shows Ox with the Linhof camera we had on board. It's the first time we've flown that. It's got a 5-inch by 4-inch square format that really makes some nice pictures. That Texas coast picture we saw a while ago was shot from that. PJ?
On day 2, we started a sequence of RMS activities that would result in the deploy of LDEF, and can't say enough about our Canadian friends that built and designed the RMS. It's just a beautiful flying piece of hardware. This is the starboard grapple fixture of LDEF that we used for the deploy, and essentially that payload's tied down in the bay with some latches, and once the RMS has it securely grappled, Crip released the latches, and we pulled it out and put it through its paces for a couple hours, and very steadily poised the orbiter in the right attitude and released the payload rates. LDEF is unique in it. It's a very simple payload, no gyroscopes or anything like that nature on board, and it was incumbent upon us to release it without tipping it or getting any kind of motion started. We hope that the next 10 months to a year it will stay in this exact attitude that we left it in for recovery.
We also carried a unique camera on board that's referred to as IMAX that shoots a 70-millimeter movie film, and here it shows a scene with me loading the magazine and running it through. It's about 1,000 feet of film in a mag. TJ?
I had a lot of explaining to do what I was doing with it in the bag here. Every time they saw me at the mid deck, I was in the bag, but that's what we used to change the film out from the can into the magazine. We were getting ready for the rendezvous here on day 3, and we got excellent support from the ground all the way in, and the onboard system worked just fine. We made the rendezvous without any problem at all.
This is in the bay in the MMU getting ready to take off for the satellite. See the T-pad sticking out there in front. Flight over to the satellite was It was just like we'd practiced in the simulator, except the view was a little better. And see, we were a little closer than the 200 feet that we'd planned, and so I only did a 2 potato burn instead of a 2.5 potato burn, so I went a little slower than.
But all that felt very comfortable from my standpoint of watching the satellite and watching Pinky do the flyover just like we planned it. It's a nice, stable device that the MMU really performed superbly throughout the flight.
The MMU was really a very, very nice machine to fly. You could put it wherever you wanted. Flying up on the satellite was just like we'd done in the simulator, all the way up to the point here where we attempt to do a dock, and the T-pad hits that little pin that's sticking out and bounces right off. That's a view from the helmet-mounted camera.
The satellite initially was rotating at about 9/10 of a degree per second about its long axis before the attempts to grapple it.
This, I think, is the last attempt I made at doing the docking. We had some pretty good rates on the satellite already. You can see go in there and I'll bounce right out again. You bounce out at about the same rate you go in.
When Pinky bounced off for the third time, I guess I became convinced that we were not going to be able to get it with the T-pad, and it didn't look to me like it was worth trying to come back and get the other T-pad because I didn't have any reason to think it'd work any better. We did have a rotating grapple up our sleeve. However, the satellite was tumbling end over end, as you can see here, and the grapple fixture is right under one of those solar arrays, so there's no way we'd be able to attempt the rotating grapple either. That was when I asked Pinky if he thought he could try grabbing hold of one of the solar arrays, which is what he did here.
And the MMU, again, performed flawlessly. It was a fairly easy task just to fly up and grab the solar array and walk out to the edge of it and try and stabilize the satellite. And when I let go of the satellite, we all thought we had it stabilized, but there was some energy in there someplace.
It basically had stopped rotating in the pitch and yaw axes, and the only thing we had going was, it appeared to us, was that a little roll around the long axis again, which is what we wanted. So we brought Pinky back in and attempted to go ahead and grapple it. However, when we went back, it actually developed more of a tumble again. However, this time it was in a mode that we thought we could gain access to the grapple fixture. We made about 4 attempts at it, and it was tumbling in such a fashion that TJ came within inches of getting it one time. I thought for sure he had it, and so it blossomed. Our TV camera did that he uses for the grapple, and I really contributed that mostly with the reason that he actually didn't get a hold of it that time. The ground told us they thought they might be able to stabilize it, which was new data to us, and they gave us some fuel figures that what they needed, so we elected to go ahead and go along with that option and backed out and to try again another day.
This is letting the bees out of their little house here, we did this a couple times a day. It was good entertainment, if nothing else, and we were watching their progress on their honeycomb.
Yeah, we made sure that there was no way they were going to get out of there.
I checked that first thing.
This is a little bit of in-flight repair with the EVA power tool. We weren't programmed to use it inside the vehicle, but it turned out it was a really good way to take off and put on panels so that we can get at some filters inside the vehicle and clean them. And Pinky did most of the work, but this is just me doing some, putting some in just for practice.
You know, the government runs on paper, and we have to have our teleprinter on board. It's just taking a message out of the teleprinter for the day. And when we changed our flight plan there, we got flight plans up from the ground every day like that.
We did our daily exercise like we always do. So we have a treadmill on board, and we all spent 10 to 20 minutes a day on the treadmill whenever we could find time.
Okay, and we're getting set up to go in and try the second rendezvous attempt. Incidentally, from a rendezvous standpoint, we noticed a few minor anomalies with respect to that, but the basic system really works superbly. Rendezvous works just like it did back in the Gemini days, as far as I'm concerned. We can get 2 satellites together and we'll probably get a chance to exercise that extensively out in the future.
That's the slowest anyone ever saw Crippen move inside the shuttle. He was doing that so we could take a picture of him. Intrepid pilot.
Always easier than zero G. Moving around up there is really nice.
Put on the seatbelt just to hold me in the seat while we were doing some of our burns.
Notice it takes a few books to do that operation. We got them spread out everywhere. We came in and rendezvous with the satellite the next time, and it had about 0.5 degrees per second rotation rate going, and this was just the way that we had practiced it down here on the ground. Maneuvered in, and TJ grabbed hold of it with no problems whatsoever. That's it, the gold thing outside the window there.
And you can also see the arm moving in the other window, so that was right about the grapple time. This is the Solar Max stowed in the flight service structure, and just the way we wanted to see it in the first day, but we finally got it there.
This is the guy we called Oscar. This was the third spacesuit we had on board. Just show you what it's kind of a demonstration here, just how easy it is to move things around. This weighs about 375
This
pounds.
is where the guy said, "Oh, that feels good."
Been in there all this time. Spacesuit comes in basically about 4 pieces. Here, you take his pants off, and it's got 2 gloves and a hat. It's we had excellent luck with our spacesuits. Mine was absolutely no problem at all. Pinky had a little problem with his air conditioner, but in general, the suits work really well. It's the Solar Max when it's rotated down, and then it's twisted around so that we can get at the operating end of it, so we can do our repair. The structure that this thing sits on, the flight support structure, was built up at Goddard, and it worked very well.
Scope was our valet for the EVAs. We couldn't have gotten in and out of the suits in a real efficient manner without Dick. He helped us a lot.
This was about the only films we got of the change out on the ACS module. We did most of it in the evening there before we came up to the light.
These guys were going so fast we couldn't take any pictures. Slow down, we'll get some sunlight.
You can see the big blue tool there is the module servicing tool. This is like a big torque wrench. And the satellite was built to be serviced in space on these particular elements, so it was a fairly easy job to do. It's a matter of sticking this tool into the hole there where the screw was, this big Acme screw, unbolting it, and there was only 2 screws holding each one. Just standing on the end of the remote manipulator on the manipulator foot restraint there, or the platform that you work off of. We had tools and whatnot, and it was an excellent platform to do work from in space. Either TJ, and we even let Crip fly me around a little bit.
Yeah, they even let the old CDR drive around.
This is up working on the main electronics box. Mickey and I took turns standing in there and working on it. Again, it's really a nice machine. This is from the helmet-mounted camera, just how many wires are in there. I don't even know how many there were, but there's a whole bunch of wires.
This is the part I think I mentioned to you folks. If there was anything I really didn't think that we might be able to do, it was to change out all these little electrical connectors, and these guys made it look like a piece of cake, just like they'd been doing it all their lives.
There's 11 connectors, and each one of them had up to like 78 wires in it. So, but it turned out to be, after all the training we did, it really wasn't very difficult. Interesting thing was looking inside that box there, inside the satellite, there's a whole lot of parts in there.
Now, the reason they made it look easy was that they practiced it enough. They had done that task hundreds of times.
This is doing a survey of the satellite before we redeployed it. That was really quite a ride to get put up on a pedestal like that.
I was having a lot of fun driving Pinky and Ox around it. For a while there, I thought I was having more fun than they were, but I'm sure I wasn't.
And then cap it all off, got to fly around the MMU and do an engineering test flight on it. We're looking at center of gravity offsets and things like that, but in general, as it seemed, I was having a real fun time in it. It's a fine machine. It flies just exactly the way you want it to, and I think we'll get a lot of use out of it in the future. It affords a fine view of the world here. You see the two little lights on the side of my helmet. We had helmet-mounted lights to illuminate the work you're doing at night, and they work extremely well, too. They're just battery-powered lights.
After Pinky and Ox had finished the repair work, that was a pretty long day, EVA and all, and the next day, Goddard said they were ready for the deploy of the satellite. They had checked it out overnight, and we hoisted it up on the arm in the proper position and pointed it toward the sun with the orbiter, and then the RMS did the rest of the work by releasing it with that much noticeable rates on the satellite. Backed the arm away, and then Scopes took over flying the orbiter back and away.
And all that went very nominally. We backed away from it and departed the area about 45 minutes after we deployed the satellite. We were planning on staying around a little longer than that, but all the test and checkout was done. Everybody was happy with the satellite, so we went off and left it. And hopefully we left it in a lot better condition than we found it.
Did leave it a lot better.
We did leave it.
Okay, this is more of the housework. I did a lot of the cooking and bottle washing, and if you look out the window there, you can see the snow going by. We're doing a water dump at the same time. Cooking a meal is about like doing it on the ground there.
This is a bank shot by Crippen.
Yeah.
Trying to get my eggs in my mouth.
We do. You do tend to eat in space like you do underground.
Almost.
Almost.
Some of us do.
Land shark.
Scopes got all the dried fruit in the pantry there.
Nobody else seemed to like
Stopped
it,
it
but it
all
was really
down.
good.
At least I eat in space. I eat like I do underground.
Right. So did Ox.
So does that.
That was a real rotating grapple, old boy.
Yeah, we gave us time to play up there, too. Yeah.
Finally, they told us we had to come home and quit playing them. We had to wave off once. I had lots of practice of that, having done it on my last flight, so it worked exactly the same way. No problems at all. Just tell us where you want to land.
Okay, these are 16 millimeter motion picture taken out of the overhead window. This spike thing was just sat over the middle of the payload bay during the whole entry, which was at night. It's a big shock of some sort, and all this flashing and burning was going on around it. I kept tapping everybody on the shoulder trying to get them to look at it. They were busy flying the orbiter.
That's what it looks like outside the forward windows. That captures the color very well. It was dark most of our entry, so we got a chance to get a fantastic light show. Vehicle flew like it normally does. We had no problems at all in entry. It was completely nominal as the vehicle behaved superbly throughout the flight. We had very few malfunctions. Lighting was such that we couldn't pick up many landmarks visually until we came overhead Edwards. About 45,000 feet, we began to pick up normal landmarks. There's deploying the gear at about 300 feet. And we were using Lake Bed Runway 17, and that all went very nominal as far as we were concerned. Touchdown and held the nose off until 180 knots, which is a normal way we practice it, and then we derotated at about a degree per second. We have made a modification that we started on 9 in the flight control system that gives you a little bit more control over the nose as you're lowering it. It's a lot more positive now. I was interested in exercising the brakes since I hadn't used them very well previous times, and we have had some brake problems. We did get on the brakes pretty good, and they again malfunctioned to some degree. Here's 5 heavy guys climbing off, and everybody, maybe with a little bit of sea legs, but everybody feeling very good. And that concludes our movie and presentation. So if we could have the lights, thank you.